ಸಂಸಾರದಾವ ನಲಲಿಡಲೋಕ ತ್ರಣಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಗಣ ಗಣತ್ವಂ प्रप्तस्य कल्याण गुणर्नवस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् महाप्रभो कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्रमध्यान् मनसोरसेना रोमाञ्चकाम्पासुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यानाना शृङ्गारतान्मन्दिरमजनादो युक्तस्य भक्तां च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसादा स्वादान्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गान् कृतैव तृप्तिं भजता सदैव वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतीक्षणा स्वादनलोलुपास्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् निकुञ्जयुनो रतिकेलिसिद्ध्यै यायालिबे युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदाक्षात् अतिवल्लभास्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् साक्षादरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव साध्भिः किन्तु प्रभोजा प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन् सुवास्यं तस्य यशस्त्रीसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् संसारदावानललीडालोका त्राणाय कारुण्यगणगणत्वम् प्रतस्य कल्याणगुणनवस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसदि गौरा भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसदि गौरा भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसदि गौरा भक्तवृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe. Jayo Jagannatha Jayo Baladeva Jayo Subhadrama Jayo Sudarshana. Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Lakshmana Hanuman. Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai, Jayo Gauranitai. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
की जय।
ISKCON founder Acharya PPT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada
की
ki
जय।
jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Brahmhamsa Pradika Acharya Ashtota Shata Shishi Shimatis Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada
की
ki
जय।
jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki
की
jai.
जय।
Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Thakur ki
जय।
jai. Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki
जय।
jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki
जय।
jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham ki
जय।
jai. Shri Maya Pranavadvip Dham ki jai.
जय।
Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki
जय।
jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham ki
की
jai.
जय।
Ganga Mai
की
ki jai.
जय।
Yamuna Mai ki
की
jai.
जय।
Bhakti Devi ki
की
jai.
जय।
Tulasi Devi ki
की
jai.
जय।
Samavrita Bhaktavinda
की
ki jai.
जय।
Gaura Premanande
हरे हरे हरि बोल।
all glory to assembled
हरे
devotees.
कृष्ण।
All glory to
हरे
assembled devotees.
कृष्ण।
All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada
की
ki
जय।
jai.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रहलाद लाद दाईने हिरण्याकाशीपूर्वक्षः शीलताङ्कानखालये हितो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बहे नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहमादिं शरणां प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नागाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधेता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधेता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी 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 नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी ये तुम्हार शरण लो तारा वांछ पूर्ण हो तुम्हार शरण लो वांछ पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरिबो सदा रूपरासीन मेहरीबो सदा युगल रूपरासी এই নিবেদন ধার সখীরানুগত করো নিবেদন ধার সখীরানুগত করো সেবাধিকার দিয়ে করো নিজ দাসী ये करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाय नबासी राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाय नबासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदाय नबासी श्री राधा गोविंद में सदाय नबासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः तुलसी प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय.
My desire is in the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is also grant me residence in the precious groves of Shri Vrindavana town. Thus within my vision I shall behold the beautiful paths of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow Carl Danso's virtue. Please give me the privileged devotional service and make me own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, Allah, Shiva, or Brahma, to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Veda literature or literatures of pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualist activities, offering the Vedas of fruitive activities, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glory of the holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chant holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us have a most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as thy trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full compassion, fallen, conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Pavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Gairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Purivardhanam Pratipadam Purunarmita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakali Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra pita niyamita smaranena kalaha etadvishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi turudevami disham yaha janina nurakaha trinatapi sunicena tarorapi saishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sada harihi na thanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha gamaye mama jammani jammanishvare pavata bhaktir haituki tvai ayinanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame pavam buddha kripaya tava pada pankaja stithaturi satesham vichintaya nayanam garadashurudaraya vadanam gadgada rudaya gira pulakaya nichitam vapurkada tava nama grahane bhavishati yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name ashrisava padratam pinnastumam atarshanam marmhatam karotuva yatha tatha va vidathatu lampato madprananathastu sa eva naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Shastakam Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all that does accumulate for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is all transcendent knowledge. It increases ocean transcendent bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction to human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have vested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness enable us to easily approach by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate to have no attraction for them. One should chant holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking himself lower than the straw in street. One should be more taller than a tree, devoid all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Mahajananda, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow that is following the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me at one Adam's lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name, while my voice choke up or hair my body stand end recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of separation comes a moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and shall remain so he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted for not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Chaitanya Shastakam Ki Jai.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachaditesha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Danta Harine Namo Gaura Kisharaya Sasha Vairagya Murtaye
Vipralambara Sambodhe Pudam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gaura Shakti Rupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Premadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Chise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangor Mama Mandamate Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindanya Kalpajumadha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasana Stito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prasthali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Saram Divam Sivata Tatastita Karsam Venus Manir Gopir Gopinata Shri Estuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai, Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasatma Sukha Pariksha Lakshariteshu Surabhira Pipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrahma Sevimanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kavanantam Aravinda Dalayatasham Parharvatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandakala Savanamala Ratnangadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Chipangaladitam Yata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Karayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantasu Koti Satavatsala Samprakamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungavanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichinta Tattve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitum Jagadanta Kotim Yashakti Rasti Jagadanta Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manuchastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasana Yana Pusha Suktaryameva Nikamapatitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Patibhavita Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Dayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhutto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitishtam Nanavataram Akarud Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all, and he has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, and head decked with a peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form Sham Sundara is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and he eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by a pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. Go.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and at the same time. Such is the primal Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primal Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confidant Sakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, who is Shamashundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions.
Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmad Yasya Yato Divyad Itaratas Chartesu Avigyaswarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2 Dharma Projita Kaitravocha Nirmatsaranam Statam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shividam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kimva Prader Ishvara Sadyohridi Avarudyate Trakriti Bhisu Susubhistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears this message of Bhagavatam, by the culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3 Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam pipata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur aho raska bhuvi bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. So if I'm not mistaken, today we're hearing Canto 3, Chapter 9, verse number 30. Well, we're going to do 30 again, and then we go on to 31. Bhuyastvam tapa atista vidyam chaiva madashrayam tabyam antarhidi brahman lokandraksyas apavritam. Bhuya. Again, tvam, yourself, tapa, penance, atista, be situated, vidyam, in the knowledge, cha, also, eva, certainly, mat, my ashrayam, my ashrayam, under the protection, tabyam, by those qualifications, anta, within, hridi, in the heart, brahman, O brahmana, lokan, all the words, drakshasi, you will see, apavratan, all disclosed. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Brahma, situate yourself in penance and meditation, and follow the principles of knowledge to receive my favor. By these actions, you will be able to understand everything from within your heart. Well, that's an amazing statement, because spiritual knowledge is something that's received from Paramatma, who's in the heart. That's why he says that such instructions of it says that you will understand everything from within your heart. What's in the heart? Well, if you ask the scientists, they say, well, there's just it's a pump. It's a pump. Well, in one sense, the heart is a pump, but the real sense is Paramatma, the Supreme Personality Godhead, and Jivatma. They're present in the heart. Of course, the scientists can't see this because they don't believe such things exist. They only see a pump. See, it's like a water pump. You know. So this is how ignorant they are. They have no real knowledge. But Brahma, the secondary creator of material nature, he is listening very carefully to Krishna and following everything Krishna suggests to him. Therefore, he can see Krishna. He can see so many things that other people can't see. So, in the purport it says, the mercy the Lord bestows upon a particular person engaged in executing the responsible work entrusted to him or her is beyond imagination. Whoa, what a statement. It's beyond imagination. The mercy the Lord bestows upon a particular person. Now, everyone says, oh Prabhuji, give me your mercy, please. Well, now you're going to understand how you get mercy in this first line of this purport. You really want mercy? The mercy the Lord bestows upon a particular person engaged in executing the responsible work entrusted to him is beyond imagination. You could be the most ignorant person in the world, but if you're working sincerely in devotional service, you'll be able to do miraculous things. And that's what it's saying here. The mercy the Lord bestows, the mercy that he gives to his devotee upon a particular person engaged in executing the responsible work entrusted unto him is beyond imagination. It's an amazing statement. But his mercy is received due to our penance and perseverance in executing devotional service. So here we have two big words, penance and perseverance. So penance means, okay, you made some mistakes in the past. Everybody makes mistakes. Now you're going to accept, just like Arjuna had to accept fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra. It's not an easy acceptance. It's like a hard acceptance and very, very horrible. War is horrible. There's nothing nice about war. But Arjuna accepted the responsibility. So that acceptance is penance for mistakes he made. Yeah, what was his mistakes? He said no to Krishna. That's a big mistake. But he's making up for it now by following Krishna's instructions and fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra, which he refused to do earlier. He refused. He dropped his bow and arrow, so I'm not fighting. Right. So when people make mistakes, they can make up for them by engaging in penance, which is accepting something that is not really materially desirable. But one accepts it in order to atone for the mistakes they have made. Right? That's a penance. Now, tapasya, you haven't made any mistakes, but you accept similar types of difficulties to make spiritual advancement. Right? So here it says, But his mercy is received due to our penance and perseverance in executing devotional service. So if you want the mercy from Lord Krishna, you have to be engaged in penance and perseverance. Now, perseverance is a big word. It has a huge meaning. It means that you tolerate even the worst situations in life without complaining, because you have complete faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Do we believe that Krishna is actually God, the controller of everything, the source of everything, the person who has all power, all beauty, all fame, all knowledge, all wealth, all renunciation? Do we actually believe this? Or do we not believe it? We have to ask that question. If we believe it, then we have nothing to worry about. If we don't believe it, then there's a lot of problems we're going to have in our life. Most people don't believe it, in fact, and they're tested to see if they believe it or not. And if they fail the test, then, it's sad, very sad. It's much easier to believe than not to believe. So it says, by his mercy, but his mercy is received due to our penance and perseverance in executing devotional service. So we have to have penance and perseverance when we're engaged in devotional service. Then the mercy comes like a tsunami. Brahma was entrusted with the work of creating the planetary systems. The Lord instructed him that when he meditated, he would very easily know where and how the planetary systems must be arranged. The directions were to come from within, and there was no necessity for anxiety in that task. Such instructions of Buddhi Yoga are directly imparted by the Lord from within, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesam satatayuktanam bhajtam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam utpayanti te. Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Now, before we get to that, we're going to hear something very, very interesting. You've all heard of Narada Muni. Now, Narada Muni, he was born in a single-parent family. He didn't know who his father was. And his mother was very poor. She was so poor she couldn't afford even to send him to school. He never went to school. So whatever she was doing, and she was like a maidservant. So fortunately, she was able to be a maidservant for 4 advanced devotees for the Chaturvyuha, for 4 months of the monsoon season in India. Usually during the monsoon season, saintly persons just stay in one place until all the rain and bad weather goes away. So, here's a little boy, he's only 5 years old, and here are the 4 great Bhakti Vedantas, pure devotees. And there's the mother who's cooking and cleaning for them. So the boy was not into playing tennis or badminton or playing baseball or football or playing video games. He was not interested in any of that stuff. He would just sit down and hear the discourses of these pure devotees, even though he didn't understand them. They're speaking in high philosophy, right? But he would just sit there and listen to them. And then when they were being fed, the mother would bring their food, they would let him eat some of the remnants of the food. That's called Maha Prasadam. It's been touched already by pure devotees. So it's not just Maha Prasadam, it's Maha Prasadam. And he would do some chores for them. They'd say, okay, Narada, go do this, or help with that. And he would do that. Whatever they would ask him, he would do it. So after 4 months of being with these Bhakti Vedantas, Narada Muni became purified. He became educated, although he never went to school. Now we're going to read about that. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavichamidam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharman Susakam Kartam Bhavayam. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text number 2. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. So this is a very long purport. It goes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Now we're not going to read all of it. We're just going to read part of it, but a very significant part, where it explains about the experience of Narada Muni. He was only 5 years old, in the association of 4 Bhakti Vedantas, 4 pure devotees who are experts in Krishna consciousness, not only in the philosophy but in the practice of Krishna consciousness. They were very strictly practicing. So if we fast forward to the paragraph which says, in the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, this is also described in the following words: Prakasascha karmani abhyasat. Devotional service is so potent or powerful that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who, in that life, happened to be the son of a maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born into a high family. But when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged, and sometimes, in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, Uttishta lipan anamodito dvijai, and so forth. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.25, Narada describes his previous life in his disciple, to his disciple Vyasadeva. So Narada is the guru of Vyasadeva, right? So he's describing to him when he was just this little kid, before he was Narada Muni, the great saint. He had no education, but he had a penchant. P-E-N-C-H-A-N-T is a nice word. He had a penchant to sit down and not engage in frivolous sports. Football, baseball, ping pong, you know, all these silly games, right? You like ping pong, Prabhu? Huh? You play ping pong? Yes? Do you play ping pong? Huh? No, okay. You play ping pong? No, good. I'm glad you don't. I used to play ping pong. Right? Then I realized, what kind of nonsense game is it? You got tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. You're hitting the ball one side, the other side, all nonsense. So anyway, he says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees, during the 4 months of their stay, he was intimately associating with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy, who would wash their dishes, wanted to taste the remnants. So he asked the great devotees for their permission. See, he didn't just go ahead and eat. He asked them, can I actually eat some of this? Do you give me permission to do it? You see, he's only 5 years old, but he's very, very, advanced in behavior, right? And he wanted to taste the remnants. So he asked the great devotees for their permission. And when they gave it, Narada ate those remnants and consequently became freed from all sinful reactions. That's why it's called Maha Prasadam. It's not just Maha Prasadam, it's Maha Prasadam, right? Because it's been touched by the pure devotees, right? I several times I was able to have some of the remnants of Prabhupada's Prasadam. Not all the time, but there were certain occasions when I was able to do that. And you can notice the difference. So he asked the great devotees for their permission, and when they gave it, Narada ate those remnants and consequently became freed of all sinful reactions. That's how powerful Mahaprasadam is. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. Notice, it's all happening by eating, right? It's not happening by studying. It's not happening by memorizing. It's happening by eating. Right? As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting, and Narada gradually developed the same taste. Yeah, just like you hang out with people that smoke, you also start smoking, right? You develop a taste for smoking, or chewing tobacco, or smoking a cigar or a pipe. You know anybody that smokes a pipe? In India, nobody smokes pipes? Yes. Of course they.
Here also, Maharaj.
Huh?
Here also a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially in young kids.
Yeah, they smoke anything they can get their hands on. So here's this little boy. He's only 5 years old. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting. And Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada says further, Tatran Vaham Krishna Kata, etc. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Prakasascha Karmanya Abhyasa, if one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically, and he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, directly perceived. Now, we should read this carefully on a regular basis and understand what is Krishna consciousness. It's an internal thing. That's a communication between Paramatma and Jivatma. It has nothing to do with, let me get into MIT or Harvard or get into Stanford. What? And associate with those demons? They're going to be teaching you all kinds of nonsense things, Big Bang, they went to the moon, all these nonsense concepts, right? And philosophies and so forth. By the time you get out of the education area, you're probably more confused than when you went in, right? And way more puffed up, way more puffed up. Oh yeah, I graduated from Stanford, right? You know, my stool doesn't smell. Yours smells, mine doesn't. Because I got my PhD at Stanford. Right? You see, this is the nonsense that's going on. And it is nonsense. It's complete nonsense. And instead of getting knowledge, they got ignorance. The rest of their life, they're not interested at all in Krishna consciousness. This is real. A 5-year-old boy becomes a pure devotee in 4 months just by associating with pure devotees, and he develops the same taste that they have for hearing and chanting. Shravanam Kirtanam. Every day, hearing and chanting about Krishna, just like we're trying to hear and chant about Krishna every day. Why? This is the summum bonum of spiritual life. The highest level of, let's say, involvement in Krishna consciousness is this regular hearing and chanting about the Lord. And why is there so much in books about the Lord? Because he actually exists. If he didn't exist, you have, you have like a book, Alice in Wonderland, one book. Yeah, why would they write thousands of books about Alice in Wonderland, right? There's one book, it's called Alice in Wonderland, right? Or, Dog Man, right? That one book, that's it. They don't write, an encyclopedia of Dog Man, right? But on the subject of Krishna, there's a huge volume of literature. If he was just some ordinary person, why would they write so much about him, right? Because there's so much to know about him. That's why, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, all the evidence is there. But if you ignore the evidence, then you go merrily along in your life, and next life you have a tail and 4 legs, and walking around, looking for food on the street and eating out of garbage cans. After being a human being, you end up with 4 legs and a tail, and you're eating out of garbage cans. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense, right? But that's what's going to happen to most people, because they're not interested. They're interested in hearing and chanting, but nonsense, not about Krishna. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, prakasascha karmanya abhyasat, if one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically, and he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, directly perceived. The word dharmyam means the path of religion. Narada was actually a son of a maidservant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother, and fortunately his mother rendered some service to the devotees. The child Narada also got the opportunity, and simply by association achieved the highest goal of religion. Wow, the highest goal of all religion. The highest goal of all religion is devotional service, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yoto bhaktira hoksuje. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. They don't know that. They think, devotional service, that's for the dummies, the guys that didn't go to Stanford. They engage in devotional service. Not us. We got PhDs. We can write books. They went to the moon. What? You're saying you didn't go to the moon? No, that's not true. That's nonsense. Yes, they went to the moon. And it's all Big Bang, That's what they learn in Stanford, right? They learn all this nonsense. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of chapter 8, Vedesu yagyesu tapasu chaiva. Generally, Vedic knowledge is required for self-realization. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master and was not educated in the Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Acharyavam Purusho Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he's not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. Susukam, why devotional service, consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on the transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn, then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He is ready to accept from the devotees any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available to every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumara became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice, and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. This is real knowledge. This is how we should educate our kids. This is how we should be educated ourselves. This is the real thing. And most people will reject it. They say, no, how am I going to make a living? You know, I'm going to make the big bucks. Man. I want to get the big bucks in Microsoft and Twitter and Facebook, metaverse. So they give up hearing and chanting about Krishna, and all they're doing is hearing and going to the metaverse. You go here, it's boring. You go there, it's boring. You go everywhere in the metaverse, it's boring, right? The only place that's not boring is the porn, and that they spend a long time and to get contaminated, right? So the whole thing is nonsense. It's specifically made to take your attention away from Krishna. This is what's going on in this world today. Specifically made to take your attention away from Krishna. So it says, God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not, as the Mayavadi philosophers claim, although they sometimes take the so-called devotional service. Their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service, but at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. Such temporary time-serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. So Mayavadis, you should understand, Krishna doesn't accept your nonsense time-serving devotional service. Devotional service is, as it says, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmam Susakam Kartum Avyayam. It's Avyayam, never stopping. But the Mayavadis, they say, well, as soon as we attain Brahman, we stop all this nonsense. Say, devotional service, hearing, chanting, festivals, dancing. We give it all up. And we just merge. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. Whoa. Actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahman position, Brahma Bhuta, one's devotional service begins. Samak sarve subhutesu madbhaktim labhate param. No one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, or any other yoga independently. But these yogic methods, one may make a little progress toward Bhakti Yoga, but without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then he can understand the science of Krishna or the science of God. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata. When one's heart is cleared of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. Well, just imagine you have a child, and they become Narada Muni, the greatest saint in the history of the whole universe, who can travel. He doesn't need a Boeing 777. He's got the internal Boeing 777. He can go anywhere he wants in the material world, the spiritual. He can go to hell also. He does go to hell sometimes. Not because he's committed any sins. He goes there to preach. You see, you can preach in hell also. We have a hell here also. You go down to downtown Seattle. The hell is right there, Capitol Hill. It's all hell. You don't have to go take the elevator down to hell. You just go to Capitol Hill, or and you'll see all kinds of perversion, right? So this is 9th chapter, 2nd verse, purport, which goes on for like 6 pages, and it's explaining the life of Narada Muni. Okay, so we'll discuss some more very interesting things tomorrow. What is actually Buddha Yoga? You've heard that, but we have to understand what it actually means. It's a very special meaning, Buddha Yoga. So we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? You see how profound these purports are in Bhagavad Gita? Very, very profound. You have a question? No? Okay. All right, then we'll yes.
Maharaj, my understanding. So, based on today's discussion, the regular reading of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam helps purify our heart, but true knowledge can only come directly by the mercy of Krishna.
Well, that mercy comes because we're engaged in devotional service under the tutelage of genuine Siksha and Diksha gurus. Yes.
So when we have pure sadhana, then the true
Yes.
knowledge will reveal.
It's revealed from within. Paramatma is the source of all knowledge. It's right in there. You don't have to go out there. You don't have to go to Stanford. You don't have to spend, $120,000 a year getting zero education so that you'll avoid Krishna the rest of your life.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Haribol.
if if you get mercy from Krishna after devotional service, it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, a little bit before we were reading that after the actual devotional service comes after liberation. So
After
does that
what?
liberation?
Yes.
So does that mean because Krishna's mercy comes after devotional service? Does that mean, like, I don't get it,
This is
because
a good question.
liberation, how does it come like
Okay, the
liberation
liberation, let's
and mercy-
understand what it means by liberation. Liberation means you lost any interest in mundane things, and you're only interested in Sat, what is eternal. So, liberation doesn't mean, you go back to Godhead. Liberation means you're liberated here in the material world, because you're no longer attracted to nonsense in the material world. You're always focused on devotional service. Then you're a liberated person. At that point, you begin your devotional service. Because you're not attracted. You don't say, well, I did service for 6 hours today, and now I'm going to spend like 3 hours watching television and playing on the internet and video game and this and that to relax. then it's not working. Liberation means you're not attracted to those things. You lost your attraction. Just like someone will say, well, I used to smoke, and then I got lung cancer, and now I don't smoke anymore because I realized what a mistake it is. Well, that's the hard way. Why don't you learn the easy way? Don't smoke at all. Why? I mean, the lungs are not meant for smoke. The lungs are meant for oxygen. So anybody who's going to put smoke in their lungs, they're crazy. It's not meant, your lungs are not meant for smoke. It's meant for oxygen, you see. But yet so many people smoke. You can see them outside now. It's self-murder. Okay, so that now your question was a good question, right? But see, the idea of liberation is not you go back to Godhead. You're liberated here in the material world because you lost your attraction to material nature, and you lost your attraction to exploiting people and material nature for lusty desires. And you're only interested in pleasing Krishna. When you achieve that level of consciousness, you are liberated. You don't waste any of your time now playing soccer. They don't call it soccer. What do they call it in India? Like football. Yeah. Here it's called soccer. You're not interested in cricket. Oh, I got to see who's going to win the national cricket. All this stuff is a waste of time. Yes.
There's two types of liberation. One, like,
No, there's only one type of liberation, where you're not interested in anything outside of Krishna.
oh, so when you're talking about you're not liberated back to Godhead, you're liberated here.
Yes.
So there's no liberated back to Godhead.
No, there is. You're liberated everywhere, here and back to Godhead.
Oh.
You're liberated everywhere. Narada Muni goes to hell sometimes, but not because he sinned. He goes there to preach. Now, he's liberated soul. He can go anywhere. He can go to hell and preach and help those souls get out of hell. By the way, the Christians would say it's impossible. If you go to hell, that's it. You're done. You're fried. We don't say that. We say Narada Muni goes to hell sometimes to preach and save those souls, you see. There's so many things that are wrong in this world today. You can't figure them out unless you hear Bhagavad Gita. Okay?
So you're liberated everywhere, in the material world, in the hell, in the higher planets, in the spiritual world. You're liberated everywhere because you have no attraction to Maya. Maya's not, there's no interest in Maya. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. You see how profound these purports are? They're just a few words, but they're extremely profound. So that was a good question. Thank you for the question. That means he's listening. Hey, Bo. You want to sing? Come on. You're not singing enough. Go ahead. You can start. Shri Guru Charana Padma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Bandhamui Sabhadana Mate.
Bandhamui Sabhadana Mate.
Chara Prasade Bhai E Baba Toriya Jai.
Jara Prasadi Bhai E Baba Toriya Jai.
Krishna Prapti Ho Jai Hoite.
Krishna Prapti Ho Ya Hote.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chaitete Koriya Kya.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya.
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha.
Arana Koriya Mane Asha.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati.
Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Asha.
Jai Prasadi Puri Sarva Asha.
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य गान हृदय प्रकटिता प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय रचितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जैनर बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पाद छाया एबे जय भुवाना एबे गाय कुशुक्ति भुवाना शिल प्रभु पाद पति तपवाना जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा
जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी नित्यानामिने
विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति स्वामी निधि नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाशतादिशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गणधर श्रीवत्सरित गौर भक्त वृंदा
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गणधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंदा
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. All glories to Sri All glories to Sri All glories to Sri Glories to Shikara and Shikara and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavana Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Namaste Saraswati Devi. I bow down to Lotus feet with great honor.
By His grace, one can crush the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish in my conscious and purified by the Lord's emanating His lotus plant. Attachment to His lotus feet, the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with rational knowledge. He opens birth of birth. From Him ecstatic, permanent, and merits. By Him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing His character. Our spiritual master, the ocean emerged with the friend of the poor and the Lord of masters of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Be Srila Lotus feet. Your fame spread all over the three worlds. And take shelter of the Lotus feet.